Welcome! In this video, I'll discuss a few key things to think about and understand if you're contemplating on getting a second job. Whether you're thinking about bartending on weekends at the local pub or starting Uber Eats in your spare time, then this video is for you. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room that I hear from people a lot when I'm talking to them about this topic. But you get double taxed. This simply isn't true. Before I go on further, remember, I'm just a guy on YouTube, and this is not financial advice, yada yada yada, my name is Jeff, and so forth. Okay, so in Australia, we have the tax-free threshold. This means for the first $18,000 or so of money that you make in a financial year, you don't pay tax on this, as long as you tick the box off when you're filling out your tax paperwork when you start a job. Doesn't matter if you've made $15,000 total from 5 jobs throughout the financial year, as long as you didn't make more than $15,000, and assuming a basic tax situation, then you don't pay tax on this amount. Let's say you have one job and you earn $100,000 a year. The first $18,000 still isn't taxed, but the rest will be, according to your pay-as-you-go tax table and your salary bracket. When you start a second job, the recommended thing to do to ensure you're taxed correctly is to not tick the "I want to claim the tax-free threshold" box when filling out the paperwork for your second job. This is because your two employers aren't aware of how much money you are or aren't making. They can only tax you on what they give you, as that's all they can see. Without overcomplicating it, money is taken out of your paycheck and held by the government until you've completed your tax return for that financial year. The money held is called your tax withheld. If the government didn't hold this money for you, when it comes time to sort out your taxes, you would always have to make a payment to them for the tax that you owe. People aren't so good at managing their money, and they'll likely overspend, and then they're screwed when it comes time to actually pay their taxes. So essentially, there is a tax table that your employer's payroll will follow depending on how much you earn and if you did or didn't tick the no tax-free threshold box on your tax form. So whilst more tax is taken out from your second job, it's so that at the end of the financial year, you'll be a lot closer to even in terms of tax withheld and tax owed, and you might even get some back, as the tax paid on a no tax-free threshold job is taxed at the highest rate, as your employer has no idea if you're making 20k or 200k from your main job. So whilst it seems you're being taxed higher week to week, it should even out in the end as a part of your overall income. Or like I said, you may get some back, but this depends on a lot of factors and there are too many examples to go into. Let's talk about a potential negative of having a second job. How much time you're spending there versus what you're making. Let's say you work a pretty full-on main job during the week, including a lengthy commute. You have a couple of hours at night and the weekend to look after your health, do the shopping, cleaning, washing, and have fun, etc. Is this time spent working 8 hours at a security shift in the city on a Saturday night worth it? This is context dependent. You need to add everything up. It takes you 1 hour to drive to the city for your shift as a nightclub security guard. You likely can't find parking when you start your shift, so you need to pay $30 for a flat night rate. You also spend $20 in petrol and or tolls getting to and from the city within the hour, assuming you make $35 an hour. That would be $280 total before tax. You'll probably pay around $80 in tax. Then subtract your expenses and you're probably going to net $150 from that shift. That's 10 hours of your Saturday that you could be spending otherwise. You could spend some of that time doing the grocery shopping, meal prepping for the week, and having dinner at home instead of eating out often. If you normally eat out 10 times a week, so that's getting lunch for work and grabbing takeaway for dinner, averaging $20 each meal, totaling $200 for the week on takeaway. By shopping, cooking, and prepping, you can definitely reduce that to under $10 a meal or even under $5 a meal, depending on what you're eating. You could save that $150 that you would be making a week by spending maybe 5 of those hours shopping and meal prepping, with a few hours to spare on a leisure activity. This really depends on your specific situation, what you do, what you don't do. There might be other benefits to working your second job, like a social aspect or potential networking opportunities, or just the fact that you might already live on a tight life and the extra $150 a week really helps you out. Now I'll contrast with a major positive of working a second job, especially a weekend job as someone under 35 and the fact that you're making money. Now, I'll contrast with a major positive of working a second job, especially a weekend job as someone under 35, and that's the fact you're making money instead of spending money. The sad part is you might miss social events like parties or club nights because you're working and can't take every weekend off. Otherwise, there's no point in having a second job. At the same time, let's say your friends are having a chill Saturday night with some drinks and a handful of friends. Instead of spending money on drinks and or Uber to or from their place, you're making money instead. You might finish your shift at 10 p.m. and then go visit your friends and hang out for a couple of hours. Did you really miss anything special? As it's late, you decide not to drink and might even do your mate a favor and drop them off on the way home. Or you could pick up Macca's on the way to your friend's house, drop it off to your half-drunk mates, where they're chanting Nugget King or something like that. That one's never happened to me, but there were many times where I've worked all or part of a Saturday, still socialized after, and saved money, calories, and brain cells because I came later on in the evening instead of having a big night. But not only did I save money, I made money. That's what I'm trying to get to with this point. Instead of spending $50, let's say you made $100 after tax. That's a net gain of $150. Am I saying to rid yourself of partying and social life entirely? Of course not. But as a young person, there's going to be many events you're invited to or even attend, and they aren't going to be groundbreakingly special all the time. Take time off for the big ones or the events you know you're going to have an amazing time. And maybe come later to the smaller or chiller ones and pick up an extra shift instead. A small potential gain of this is also that your second job is likely to be physical. You're standing or walking around or lifting something. You're working out instead of sitting at your friend's house playing Nintendo and drinking excess calories. So there's other non-tangible benefits from this, putting money aside as well. Okay, so I've explained a little bit about how tax works, making you do the maths on your time versus money from the second job, and benefits of working some weekends instead of spending all of that time leisurely. Ultimately, working a second job will likely mean you have more money at the end of the day. In this day and age, it's surprising more people don't have 3 jobs. I do, however, want to bring up an important point that isn't relevant for everyone, but is food for thought for some. Let's say you make $200 by working a weekend shift at whatever second job you have before tax. That's about $10,000 a year before tax. What if you found a way to increase your main job salary by $10,000 a year? You might put more conscious effort into exceeding your KPIs or prove to your manager that you offer more value than your colleague who might be earning more than you. Or you're thinking about switching jobs to one that pays $10,000 more for the same type of work, and you bring that up in your performance review, and they decide to just pay you the difference instead of the cost of having to hire and train a new employee and spend all of that time and risk when they already know they have a diligent worker like yourself. In this scenario, you basically forego the whole weekend time commitment and expenses, but still receive the same amount of money at the end of the financial year. This also poses the question of what if you did both? Obtained your raise and picked up a second job, meaning you're also saving some money by going out less on the weekends. I'm going to leave you there on that point. Build the life you want. There's copious opportunities for us in this day and age, and as long as you keep your eyes open, are willing to learn and grow, and are hungry enough to strive for more. If you enjoyed the video, please like for the algorithm and subscribe for more videos on how you can up your life. What did you think I was going to end with?